tonicity. The way that solvents or fluids are covered in this particular short course is from the aspect of a cell sitting in the fluid and what is the tonicity of the fluid around the cell. So this is a characteristic of osmosis. Now, bear with me while I switch here. I'm going to go to this and then get my pointer going. So here's an example. You can go up here. Now, I had mentioned this earlier about osmosis is movement of water molecules from high water molecule concentration to lower water molecule concentration across a semi-permeable membrane, just like here. Solvent, very few particles, many particles, very little solvent or water, because the particles are taking up space the water would be. So water is drawn to areas that have less water molecules, higher particle concentration, higher osmotic pressure. So to touch on these real quickly, fluids that are considered to be isotonic, which is a predominant part of the human body, those are fluids that have the same concentration of solids and solvent on the inside of the cells compared to the outside of cells. Like here, you notice there's no arrows. Here's the inside of a cell. Here's the outside. And say, bear with me while I go back and I'm going to stop my, I just want to make sure it shows up. So here's a very classic example. Here's tonicity. Here are the three terms. Now, I'd prefer to use this. Let me get my little pointer thingy to work. There we go. So you have three examples. Here is isotonic. Now, it's kind of showing both arrows, but if you read here, it says, when a red blood cell is placed in an isotonic solution, one having a concentration of solutes equal to the inside of the cell, water moves in and out of the cell pretty much at the same rate. If you're talking about a solution around the cell that's considered to be what's called hypertonic, hypertonic solutions have higher solute concentrations. That means they have a higher osmotic pressure. This one here with the red blood cell, that seems to be a pretty common example. This one's shrinking. Here it says when a red blood cell is placed in a hypertonic solution when having a high solute, water moves by osmosis out of the cell and into the solution. They do. Hypertonic solution cause cells to shrink. This is a hypotonic solution. Hypotonic solution cause cells to swell. This type of solution has less solutes, more solvent or water, a higher water molecule / solvent concentration. So hypotonic solutions have a lower osmotic pressure. So if you place a cell in a hypotonic solution, you create this environment. Well, this environment is the cell has more solute on the inside. It has a higher osmotic pressure, a higher pulling force compared to the outside. When a red blood cell is placed in a tonic solution, having a low solute concentration, water enters the cell by osmosis. And this is showing it bursting. Sometimes you see it being filled up all the way. But the human body, this is human physiology, the human body spends a lot of energy to make sure that body fluids in certain areas are isotonic. And then there's some areas like the kidney, for example, that are hypertonic. But a situation here would be if body fluids became hypertonic, you'd have more salt concentration, more solutes, and take the brain, for instance, brain cells would shrink, eventually would cause death. Same thing here. If body fluids were too dilute, less solute concentration, more water H2O concentration, brain cells would swell up, which would also lead to death eventually. So it's very important. I like diagrams that are simple. Here's hypertonic. It's showing the arrow. Water is leaving cells by osmosis in hypertonic solutions due to the high solute concentration. Here's hypotonic. And you see the arrow is representing water moving into the cell due to the low solute, higher solvent/water concentration compared to the inside of the cell.